and I call the honourable member for Braddon.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. In speaking to this bill, which, by the way, I'm very pleased to speak in favour of, what I don't want to do is politicise the issues at hand. I think this is far too a serious issue for any political gain or political snipe. However, what I want to do is understand and to give a better understanding of the implications and the background, the underlying issues from many of the paradigms talked about within the legislation. This legislation, of course, talks about our MRCA, our Military Rehabilitation and Compensation Act, and our DRCA, our Defence-Related Claims Act. And as the technical parameters of the bill detailed in previous speakers, of course, it allows our defence veterans to be paid their full compensation while still studying. Now, we teach, as a former military instructor myself, I've taken young kids off the bus and turned them into soldiers. So it's from that perspective that I speak today. And these aren't just any kid. These are our best. They are chosen through recruiting and tested, and these are our top 2% of Australia's youth. They're motivated, Deputy Speaker. They're motivated because they put their hand up of their own fruition, and they took themselves into a defence recruiting office whereby they raised their hand and swore an oath to our country, to its Queen, to its people. They swore an oath, and once they go then to their recruit training establishment, in my case I speak of Kapooka, the 1st Recruit Training Battalion. Once they come to us, we then take them and turn them from that civilian way of life into a very different way of life, Deputy Speaker, into a way of life that is unique, and it's very difficult for those that haven't served to understand and to contemplate the changes that goes on within a young person's mind and their heart, to change them from a civilian into a soldier. We must remember at all times that our role in the military is to keep Australia safe using lethal force, to seek out and close with our enemy, to kill or capture him. And these are the lessons that we teach our young people, and they're very difficult lessons to get across. We also teach our young people that the person on their right and the person on their left are the most important, and that the value of the team is far greater than the value of the individual. And again, Deputy Speaker, this is a very difficult subject, a very difficult concept to get across to average Joe Blow on the street. But once that's made, and once that transition's made and that trust is placed in that person on their right and their left, then that's a very valuable bond, and that young person's life changes forever. Many people ask why. Why would you trust that person so much? Why would you give your life for that person on your right or your left? And the answer is very simple. It's because that person on your right or your left, Deputy Speaker, would give their life for you. And so that I can't help but think of the member for Herbert when he talked about the tribe. He used the word tribe to describe what we have as an organisation, and that trust and that bond and those changes that I talked about earlier that we have in our military. And it's right across the entire ADF. But once those bonds are made and someone leaves defence, then they have to leave that tribe. Sometimes, in the member for Herbert's case, he had no choice. In my case, I was medically discharged after 20 years' service. But once you leave after compulsory having to leave due to a medical issue or to leave the big tribe that you've grown so accustomed to and you think so much of, then that's a very different transformation. And that's the transformation that this bill plays a very important part in. Now, this bill, I mentioned before that knowledge is power, knowledge is key. And knowledge builds confidence. The same way I talked briefly about the change in those young individuals that we get off the bus at Kapooka. You can see them after their recruit training course, they're a different person. They stick their chest out, they pull their shoulders back. They're confident. They're confident in their team and their mate. They're proud of being in the army. They're proud of serving the country. They're proud to protect that person on their right or their left. And you can see it in their eyes, and you can feel it when you walk into a training area and you've got young recruits. After a while, you can feel that culture, and it's very strong. But once that tribe is broken and that individual leaves the tribe, then they feel as if they're an outcast in life, and that's where the problems start. And that's why bills like this, which help give that confidence through training, through rehabilitation, through taking that purpose and changing and shaping that purpose into a different purpose, that's where we can unlock the future of that young person's success. Now, there are a number of other elements, I think, that come to play when we talk about transitioning. And I talked briefly about the importance that training and knowledge brings. Training like what we're talking about within the confines of the bill. But I also want to make the very succinct point that families play an important part in this. A veteran's family is going to be the mechanism, the conduit by which that veteran makes that transformation. And I think we need, as a government, as a nation, I think we need to embrace the entire family unit. I think that soldier, sailor, aviator's spouse and their child, their children, their family is going to be their future. And I think when we start talking about transition and rehabilitation and training, I think we should involve the entire family unit. Because at the end of the day, that family unit is going to be the new tribe, and it's going to be the connector between the military service and their new service, which of course will be meaningful employment. Now, we often hear the case, and I've heard it here today, anecdotal stories about veterans who do it tough, and sadly, Deputy Speaker, many do. But the vast majority, and this is being proven time and time again, the vast majority of our defence personnel transition very seamlessly, very smoothly. And in fact, they enter their new world, their new role, their new job, their civilian employment. They transition that world that they excel. They have a skill set that is second to none. They have, over the duration of their service, built up things like teamwork, things like leadership skills, communication skills. They understand what integrity really means. They understand what it's like to work in big teams and small teams. They understand the commander's intent and the importance of understanding what your boss wants from you. They are very proud people. They take pride in what they do. They like to see a good job done, a proper job done, a professional job done. So my point is, Deputy Speaker, my point is to all prospective employers out there right across the nation, my point is that employing a veteran is good for your business. It really is. And if you can understand and if we can better translate those skills, knowledge and attitudes that they've learnt into the big tribe of the military, and we can translate those into the industry-centric language that most bosses would understand, then they'd have a veteran in a heartbeat. Now, in the state of Tasmania, where I'm from, I'm pleased to say that we've delivered $7.5 million for veterans' wellness centres. $2.5 million of that money was spent on the North West Veterans Hub. And we talk about success stories and making a transition. Well, the guy that runs this particular Veterans Hub is a guy that I serve with. He was an ammunition technician, a major in the Army, an officer. And for retraining, for resettlement, he decided that he would stick his hand up and he would become a general practitioner. He wanted to be a GP, he wanted to be a doctor, he wanted to help people. And so he did. And now he's one of the finest GPs that we've got in the great state of Tassie, and he's helping us out with this North West Veterans Clinic. He's teamed up with other great organisations like Open Arms, like Soldier On, like Mates for Mates, and many others. Many others. what that organisation does is provide a way of life and a mechanism by which veterans can preempt the rigours of that change, and they arm them with the skills, knowledge and attitude that they need for their new mission, for their new role. They give them purpose again, and in doing so, they encourage that confidence. And the results, Deputy Speaker, speak for themselves. The incredible amount of positive feedback that we get from that organisation really makes us proud that we can provide that support. And it's given by, as I said, veterans. Veterans helping veterans. And what better scenario could you'd never find? I want to refer also to another organisation which, by the way, works in with the North West Veterans Hub, and that is Disaster Relief Australia. It's run by a young bloke called Jeff Evans, and he's an ex-engineer in the military. And he's got a volunteer organisation which helps out in many areas: floods, fires, disasters. In fact, we had a terrible storm in Tassie some months ago, and they were down there, 60 of these volunteers, helping people in communities, cutting limbs and trees off houses and helping people that ordinarily couldn't help themselves. And the teamwork, the camaraderie, the esprit de corps that existed within that group it took me back to my army days. And by doing that, the mentorship and the peer support that existed was therapy in itself. And the end result was that the community was that proud of the help that they received from Disaster Relief Australia, and I can't speak highly enough of them. But it also put pride on the faces of those defence personnel, those ex-defence personnel, those veterans that were doing the work. And that's what it's all about. So I guess what I'm saying, the main points that I want to get across today is that family is going to unlock the future for our veterans, and everybody needs a family. I think that knowledge is key, and I think that knowledge is empowering. And I think that the more training and the more knowledge that we can give our veterans, then the better their success, or their chances of success, will be. And finally, as a nation, I want to reiterate exactly what the member for Herbert said, and that is the time for feeling sorry for veterans is over. We should not pity our veterans. We should be proud of them. There are veterans that, yes, will tug at our heartstrings, the extreme nature of some injuries that still exist. But for the most part, our veterans transition very well, and they're an asset. So give them a go. If a veteran comes knocking on your door, at least give them a go, because they come highly recommended and they come with a set of skills that is second to none. And finally, I want to say that the Royal Commission has been difficult, and I want to thank every single last witness that has given evidence to that Royal Commission, and I want to recognise the hardships that they would have had to endure, the gumption that they would have had to build up before they went and give that evidence, and relive that trauma would have been unbelievably difficult. So I want to recognise that formally. I want to recognise that from my own perspective and from the Parliament's perspective. I want to thank you for that, and I want you to recognise that the work that you have done in doing so will save lives. And I can't thank you enough for that. Deputy Speaker, this is a great bill. It comes at the end of a long road, and I'm pleased to see it's finally been put into fruition. We can't fix veterans' issues overnight, and I think the Royal Commission will identify that. But we're moving in the right direction, and with everybody's help, and I want to look across the chamber today at the Minister, and I want him to be reassured that if there is anything that veterans from this side can do, then you have our support. And at the end of the day, our aim is to look after our fine community of veterans. Thank you.